Welcome back to PreMethods. We're doing exercise 1B, multiplying and dividing fractions. So today we're going to focus on cancelling common factors and multiplying and dividing algebraic fractions. They're the related examples and the questions that go with it. Once again, you don't have to do every single part of question 3, question 4, depending on how much is in there. I don't want you to do too much. Overly repeating things that you already understand is not a good use of your time. Okay, so you need to be pushing through what you can do. So one thing I find weird about fractions is that multiplying and dividing is easier than adding and subtracting, which is not the case with other numbers, is it? You can get quite big multiplications that get really hard. But addition is always really just counting. So, but in fractions, obviously, it's turned upside down. So we have some people doing some multiplication here. This is an attempt by some fake student, let's just say. And so we're going to do this on the board. I want you to have a look at the errors that have been made. As I said, we'll discuss it in class, but I thought I'd put it in this OneNote so some of you could get a little sneak peek and maybe get ahead of the game and let the class know you can be the first people to see it. All right, on to the key ideas. So simplifying algebraic fractions by factorizing expressions where possible and cancelling common factors. So you had to go at factorizing in exercise 1A, so you will need to use that at different stages in this one, okay? For multiplication, you cancel your common factors and then multiply the numerators and denominators. And I'll show that in a second. And division, we do the same thing except that you do the reciprocal of the second one. By that, the reciprocal means, they've written it down here. So the reciprocal of A is 1 on A, okay? And the reciprocal of A on B is B on A. So in other words, reciprocal means flip the fraction, okay? So flip the fraction. And remember that, and also, I'll put this a different color. Remember that A is equal to 1, is equal to A on 1. So that's why the reciprocal is of A is 1 on A. Okay, so what they're talking about with the multiplication, as far as with fractions, you just multiply the numerators and then multiply the denominators. So in this case, we have A times X, so that becomes AX over BY, okay? So these two numerators have multiplied into AX and the two denominators to BY. So that's pretty straightforward. The other one to remember is that for division, actually, I should add to that that if you get A plus 1 times A, or X, let's say minus 1 on B and Y, then you would multiply A plus 1 and X minus 1 on BY, okay? So you multiply the whole expression. And so if you're going to factorize, you have to do otherwise. And the same thing goes for the denominators. So when they're talking about division and flipping multiplying by the reciprocal of it, so that just equals A times B. So this one stays the same, but then we multiply the second one as a reciprocal like that. So that is equal to AY times BX. And simplifying fractions, well, you'll see we'll actually do it in example 7 and practice with example 6. Okay. So simplify by common factors. So this is just the warm up for the actual multiplication and stuff like that. But you need to be able to do this, otherwise, yeah, you don't end up with the right answer. Okay, because you end up with something that you should be simplifying. So 8a squared b on 2a. So the first thing is to remember that a squared is equal to a times a, and I could break up 8 further than 4 and 2, but I know that's enough because of the 2, okay? So 8 really is 4 times 2, times a times b, gives me that. So I just cancel out the 2 a's on both of them. The other thing to remember, and I wrote it here, is that there is automatically a 1 there, okay? Everything is times 1, isn't it? It's back to the identity. So I'm left with a 4ab at the top, divided by 1, or just cancelled altogether. For b, I couldn't factorize it, and you've got to check, as I said, check your factorization, but don't forget that if this is part of the check your errors, or well, how did that person go wrong earlier. I mentioned early in the this video, but you can't, so 3 can't just divide into one of them. You have to factorize it all, okay? So now this 3 times whatever 1 minus 3x is, that's a number, right? So they're definitely factors. 3 and 3 cancel each other out. So we're now just left with this 1 minus 3x. So I didn't just cancel 3 from the left from the 3 or the minus 9x. I made sure I factorized it first. And once again, multiplying, dividing. So part A is multiplying, and like I said in the start of the video, you multiply the whole expression of each numerator. Okay, so 2 multiplies a plus 2, so I've got to put the a plus 2 in a bracket. Okay, I added that green there, which isn't how it's written. So but now we've got this. 2 divides into 2 and 4 can divide into each other, which makes that 2 go away and the 4 turn into 2. So now we're left with a plus 2 on to a. And for part B, the division is going to happen, but the first thing to do is to flip or get my reciprocal and then start the multiplication. Now I've put it in green here on the side. Cancel before the multiplication. So before I've multiplied the numerators, I've looked for things that factor out. Okay, so this 3 and 3 factor out because I've got 3 times, so it's definitely a factor. That's not 3x or anything like that. I hope you can see the difference between my x's and times. And x minus 2, even though it's an algebraic expression, x minus 2 is x minus 2, so they cancel out, right? Whatever x is worth, they will cancel out. All right, so what do we got here? So then so the x minus 2's cancelled out, the 3's cancelled out, and I've got a 2 times 2. So that really complicated expression here at the top really is just worth 4 at the end. Okay, so that's that. There's not a lot to do for multiplication, but that's partly because it's not a super hard topic to cover. All right, so get your pre-learning done, and I'll see you in class.